Hi, my name's Greg Lehman. Welcome to Moonbeams. My guest today is Aaron Lelito from Wild Roof Journal. Thanks so much for joining me today.
Yeah, absolutely. Glad to be here.
Outstanding. And we are dealing with different work shifts and time zones and everything like that. This is my first episode in my car, so welcome. And I feel like I look very LA at the moment. And this is again, we're flexible people and I appreciate you meeting me where I am today.
Yeah, yeah, no problem. We both got some sunshine coming through, so we look like we're in the same spot, even though we're across country.
There you go. Very cool. Well, Aaron, we, met through Substack and I've just, was saying before hit record, I'm just a huge fan of the values that we share in terms of like the environmental bent that you take with your publication, as well as the guests that you have on your podcast. I know we went over the questions, but just wanted to say like I recommend everybody check out the podcast. If you could just maybe speak a little bit about, where people can listen and what your focus is there for a second.
Yeah, so Wild Roof Podcast, you could search that at any podcast app that you prefer. Um, and every episode's a little different, but the common theme is typically the guest would be somebody in the literary world. Most recently, we had a writer who has a new novel. Her name's Mary Beth Holloman, who's been a returning Wild Roof Journal contributor. So she's a poet, nonfiction writer, and now a novelist. And we got to talk with her about her new book. But we've had editors of other, lit mags and things like that. So yeah, it's a conversational, not a typical like author like Q&A, like give me the publicity rundown of like, read the back cover blurb and everything. So really just a way to kind of get behind the scenes and get to know the writers and editors out there who are kind of working, independent writers and doing the grind like we all are in our own ways. So yeah, Wild Roof Podcast, either YouTube or any podcast app, and you got it.
Outstanding. Yeah, and I loved Mary Beth's interview, like I was saying earlier. And also just you know, supporting an artist through like their poetry and also their fiction. And she's got like a very interesting story as well. And just to shout her out a little bit, I'll say that when she was talking about the polar bear scene, that I do remember when that happened. So I hope that, sparks some more readers as well. Because that was, it's a tremendous event. It was awesome to see her like utilize that as a character arc, in her story. So huge fan of what you're doing and a huge fan of Mary Beth's as well. I'll be checking out
Yeah,
her work soon. Yeah.
that's a good teaser. Yeah, that's where she reads a passage from her novel, and it's a real life becomes art moment, like you said. It was a real event that was worked into the novel. So, and it involves a polar bear.
Yeah.
And maybe we'll leave it at that, and you could find out what happened to the polar bear and uh, who encountered the polar bear under what circumstances.
Yeah. Yeah. Outstanding. Drafting into our questions here. So Aaron, if you could define the current state of poetry as you see it in three adjectives, what would they be and why?
That's a great challenge, I suppose. Um, I said energetic was the first one that came to mind, and that can go a couple different directions, I suppose. But yeah, even just speaking to other writers and other editors in the lit mag world. Um, you know, there's a lot of energy that people put into their work, whatever that may be. And so, we wouldn't be here without it. We wouldn't have these books and these publications without people putting in real time and real effort and real energy and into sharing it. So, energetic's one of them. Um, and the second is another E one is enigmatic, which is a is another appealing part of this space because every little quirk, can get explored in these kind of like subcultures and stuff like that. And so, yeah, as part of being an independent writer or an editor, you really have a lot of freedom. You're not in the spotlight, if that goes, that's for sure. And you could really explore, pretty wide-ranging interests. And they can be, weird and experimental at times. So I'm all for that. And I like the DIY. That was the third one. If that could be considered an adjective in this case. Um, DIY, it's really a common thread that I've found personally just through my own creative journey, I suppose. And it's really figuring it out, overcoming your own limitations or working within your own limitations creatively, artistically, technologically, and putting out what you want, more or less on your terms. And that's one of the great benefits of the world we live in today, the digital landscape, that you can really put out your own content um, on your own, depending on what you want to do with it. So yeah, it's kind of that independent spirit, the DIY ethos.
And you certainly embody that. And I'll pull the thread on enigmatic because that was one theme that I heard. We were speaking about some interviews you had done in the past, and like one of something that really stood out to me was that instead of chasing like a viral explosion, or increasing like aiming for like increasing audience and everything like that, like you have this patience that comes through in your philosophy where you're just building. It's just like whatever it's going to be is going to be. You're trying to pull in quality and chase like, whatever that enigma is going to be what it's going to be. And it's like a mystery you're solving, over looking for like an ROI or something like that. So I see overlap there. It's great.
Yeah, and it's partially conscious, I suppose, and intentional, maybe partially not. But yeah, one of the things I think about a lot is like it's hard to get around the impulse or just the drive to like scale it up. Like, why wouldn't you want it? It's like if you do it this way, I'd do it more. And that's so that's there. You can't. I wouldn't like deny that. Of like, that drive is part of our cultural makeup. But yeah, it's an interesting thought to like, why do you have to? Why put it where it is? Whoever it reaches, that's who it's gonna reach. If that connection is there, that could be something that's still worthwhile. So yeah, I think that is part of what I'm thinking about for sure.
Yeah, and I find that no matter what is built, like it's still being built, like when you are adding more episodes and you're adding more editions of the journal, it is reaching more people and it's at least speaking to consistency and it's leading like I was saying in another interview that I'm going to be releasing soon is that like just by us talking here and releasing this, people that wouldn't have seen this if we hadn't are going to see it. Like it just it's a growth that's going to happen no matter what, but it's not like with the intention of like I gotta like get some be on every front page tomorrow. Like
Yeah.
it's
Yeah, I have
a
a
beautiful thing.
friend who uses I guess we can call it a mantra. I don't know if it's actually a mantra, but she says one freak at a time.
Yeah, I love
Um,
that quote too. That was great. And
so, so yeah, I mean, and in a loving way, of course, the people who are into Wild Roof Journal, if you're consider yourself freaks, that's with a loving a loving usage of that word. Um, but yeah, one person at a time as far as like making that connection. And if it's real and genuine, go for it.
yeah, let your freak flag fly. I love it. Yeah. Well, cool. And then, so next question. Granted that Roof Journal is not exclusive to themes, of the natural world, poetry with an environmental focus goes as far back as language itself. What do you look for as an editor to make Wild Roof Journal fresh and unique? And how do you balance those goals with extending the rich history of poetry dedicated to this topic?
Yeah, that's something that's kind of in the back of my mind. when considering submissions and stuff like that, where it really isn't like, does it connect with, a particular theme, or does it connect with, you know, some particular aesthetic? Um, it's all about the human condition, I suppose, is it, at some level. So it's, about being human and the human experience, and the environment around surrounding that experience. So yeah, if it's the remote wilderness, I'll take it. That's always, has an appeal. And if it's the local park, great. And if it's, a 400 square foot apartment building in New York, like cool. Like it's not, it's not like something that's gonna be declined just because it doesn't take place in, a natural setting. So it's if it's interesting and it engages with, something that's um, a genuine expression of the human condition, awesome. And so, yeah, kind of that idea of fresh and unique voices, balancing, that kind of an accessible like, kind of entry point in terms of like an issue of Wild Roof Journal, and then maybe having more, you know, possibly experimental pieces, vulnerabilities, a big one in terms of work that becomes appealing, layered and nuanced, a little bit of a mixed bag, but it should all kind of hang together in a way that makes it seem cohesive. So there's a little bit of a, and hard to put your finger on way to balance those things, but um, yeah, so kind of playing with those different ideas is important. Um, and there's gonna be nature. It's not gonna be avoided. So, seasonal transformations and the seasonal cycle is like an unofficial, like underlying theme of each issue. So we're not gonna miss it. The winter issue isn't gonna miss, some of the darkness and those themes, and the fall issue isn't gonna miss some of the transformational themes. And so yeah, that's just kind of happens a little bit spontaneously in that sense, but pretty certain it's going to come through, even if I don't try too hard to make it too heavy-handed.
Outstanding. Love it. Yeah. Guiding principles over hard and fast rules. It sounds like, and that's the way things grow. So love to hear that. Next question. If you could steal one ability from a poet of the past, who would it be and why? Same question for a poet living now.
Yeah, this is an interesting one. Um, and I guess you'll permit me, I guess, because we'll say poet we'll expand the word poet a little bit because my responses aren't necessarily maybe all poets, but one that came to mind as kind of an old favorite is Raymond Carver, who was an accomplished poet, but maybe more well known for his short stories. And, I've taught Raymond Carver back when I was a professor. I've read Raymond Carver's in leisure reading space, and just the way he makes those tiny little details carry such significance and in an unfussed over way. Um, yeah, there's something kind of magical about that. So, I just love those little tiny details, and you could read it 50 times. And one story in particular, I read more than that when I was teaching it, called Chef's House. And it was like a 4-page short story. And like, even like in the moment, sometimes like presenting it or teaching it, talking about it, like, oh, how about that?
Yeah.
That could, that use of it right there can mean this or it can mean that, but it's vague and not defined, and we could discuss what what those possibilities are. So Raymond Carver, I guess he'll be the one from the past. And I love Marilyn Robinson's novel Housekeeping. So we can call her poetic if she's not a poet, officially speaking. And specifically in housekeeping, it's a favorite of a lot of people I know. And just such a rich, beautiful way to present a story, that world that you enter into. I love her, like the world building in that story, just enmeshed in it. It's magic almost. It's you just kind of feel like you are these characters and you're really experiencing it. Such, yeah, such beautiful language. And yeah, so I think I would steal I would steal quite a bit. And yeah, I've used housekeeping as a starting off point for a poem or two of my own to take some starting imagery. So, you know,
Outstanding choices. Yeah, I haven't gotten to housekeeping yet, so that'll have to go on my list. And yeah, Carver all day. All day. What more can I say?
yeah.
You know? Outstanding. And then some of the best writing surprises us by stating what we already know and feel very deeply. If you could share a line of poetry that did that for you.
Yeah, it's another one where like this could go I could go on for days with you know, significant quotes. Um But you know the name Wild Roof, if you dig into the website, you'll know it comes from a line from William Blake. So I'll go in that direction first. And a line of his that's is just kind of confounding, maybe more than anything, is the fool who persists in his folly will become wise. Like that's something. I don't know if that, like I personally hope that's true. I hope things turn out to be like that in real life. Um, but yeah, it speaks to something important that's going on in the creative pursuit, I think, of a lot of people who do this because they need to or they're drawn to it or they're spiritually connected to it, whatever. It might not make the most logistical sense, financial sense, practical sense at all day at all times, but we do it anyway, and hopefully we learn something from it. And
Yeah.
yeah, go for it.
Well, I was gonna say I think I smile and laugh a little bit because, we're both poets. And that, that is the poetic life to some extent. Um, but I'm also it also speaks to endurance and resilience, no matter what, no matter how foolish or possibly damaging something can be. It also speaks to sport, which I'm very much a part of and passionate about. So what a line. Yeah.
Yeah, and you know, it kind of begs the question, well, you know, is it folly? You know, it's kind of like yeah, like the wise fool trope, you know, so it kind of plays with that.
Yeah, yeah.
And yeah, yeah, go for it. Yeah, yeah, sorry.
Yeah, no, just like it definitely behooves us to see what is too much. It's too foolish, um but also I'm reminded of a line that I've been holding close recently that I heard of, just the sin of certainty, just being humble about what we do and don't know, and hopefully are able or privileged enough to follow our passions. And like that's this is also revealing, a principle that like I've had in other conversations here around, like, I think poetry can partly be defined by lines or pieces that, like, you can keep unwrapping. Like look at us here. We keep finding shells beneath this line to explore. So well found. Well quoted. Thank you.
Yeah, and so yeah, I love the line. It just reminded me of it with the sin of certainty. Um, it's Nabokov is curiosity is insubordination in its purest form.
Yeah,
So I love, I mean, curiosity is a, you know, one of those, you know, something I strive for. Um, and yeah, that's such a beautiful way to put it because it's playful yet kind of carries that, you know, um, it's not just childish playful. It's kind of, it's necessary. Yeah.
absolutely, absolutely. No, I feel like we could do this all day. Just keep keep finding more quotes. Love it. Um, but yeah, moving on here. Which poets or writers' personal story do you look to when you seek hope and guidance in your personal approach to the craft and or producing a Wild Roof Journal.
Yeah, this is one of the great things about being in the editorial role is like you get kind of the in real time, connection to writers. And so really that's the first thing that comes to mind is like almost like the feedback loop of like people who I engage with in the Wild Fruit Journal world and the community. That's hugely inspiring just in the sense of like, okay, we're kind of playing off it together and going through it together. Like you've accomplished this or that's something published that's really good or catches my eye or oh, that look, oh, you got a book published. Wow, like it's something that is kind of that constant inspiration point or motivation or gives you ideas of like even if it's something simple like, ooh, I'll submit my work there. Just something practical and something like that. That's real and that's yeah, that's something that I found really important. And hearing one step further, if you kind of like hear some of the behind the scenes stories for the features I do on Substack, where it's either interview setup or they respond to a list of questions or write a piece about their backgrounds, like you kind of draw inspiration from those people, just from learning more about them. And that's really something, and it keeps me going in terms of yeah, the persistence idea. That's one of the factors. Um, but yeah, I think when you kind of take a look at, and maybe you have a couple of examples that you can think of as like you know writers or artists who spend their whole life like pushing creativity and putting out what they're doing. So like I made a little list here, like Georgia O'Keeffe is one that like I don't know a ton about. I'm not an art historian. I don't know a lot about her, but I've always found her like to be hugely inspirational in terms of just her life as a creative person. Somebody like Patti Smith, Don DeLillo, which is one of my favorite writers. I looked up Don DeLillo, he's 88 years old, and he's been putting out amazing writing for decades. Um, and yeah, so it's you kind of look to inspiration for the people who've done it for a long darn time.
Yeah, yeah, and excellent examples. And I go back to I don't know if you know too much about Don DeLillo's writing process, about just rewriting pages, just a single page over and over and over until he gets it right. And yeah, you want to talk about resilience, that's checks the box there for sure.
Yeah, I think if I remember it right, it's one paragraph. He only puts one paragraph on each page using a typewriter.
Yeah.
Um, so I think his big novel, Underworld was like some enormous amount of pages because each page was only one paragraph. So
Yeah.
yeah, so it's kind of like thinking about it in that kind of more compartmentalized way. Interesting stuff. Yeah.
Absolutely. And then yeah, thank you for pulling in a painter as well. I mean like yeah, I grew up learning about, all the great artists, and Georgia O'Keeffe it just continues to mesmerize for sure. Some where you never know when you're making the art about like what will only speak to your time and speak to every time. And she unlocked imagery that speaks to every time and I think will always be with us. So excellent examples. Um And then, yeah, I would love to hear about, any recent or upcoming publications that you would like to share of your own and what you're working on at the moment.
Yeah, so I mean, we kind of mentioned the Wild Reef Journal stuff, the podcast for sure, wildreefjournal.com for the issues on Substack, subscribe on Substack to get a weekly feature and some shout outs listings, what they're called, basically the up to date, Lit Mag publications and submission opportunities. So that's all good stuff you can get on Substack. More personally, I am trying to get a poetry manuscript out there. Um, so it's I guess it comes back to the persistence thing. But yeah, working on the manuscript to get that picked up and out into the world at some point, and who knows what future. So that's the poetry side. And then speaking of shout outs, I'll shout out the Plant and Poetry Journal, which just came out with a new volume called Plant People. And I have a haiku series in the Plant People, um, fifth volume, which is available online, plantandpoetryjournal.org. And that's on Instagram too, but it's easy, sometimes easier to go through there. Um, and yeah, most active on Instagram. So Wilder Journal or Aaron Lelito, my first and last name. Follow me and us on there.
Outstanding, and congratulations on the haikus. And yeah, if you're comfortable sharing, like, so this manuscript, it's completed and you're sending it out? Like what stage are you at?
Yeah, so it's for the most part complete. Usually, tweaking at a poem, little tweaks there, but for the most part complete and ready to send to publishers and wait. Send out and then wait and wait and wait. So yeah, it's nothing other writers wouldn't be familiar with, I'm sure. But yeah, in that kind of stage is just trying to feel out what publishers would be a kind of a good fit and where to send it and put the finishing touches on it.
Outstanding. Well, all very exciting stuff. And again, going back to the YouTube interview I saw a while ago, where you were primarily talking about publication and editing and everything like that. We're privileged to be busy, and you are busy with so much, and you're showing tremendous leadership and support for other writers, with everything you're doing. So, Aaron, thanks again for your time and generosity that you've shown me and the community as a whole. It means a lot.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, that means a lot to me to hear it. And yeah, I think that's something to take that I can take with me and maybe the listeners as well. Yeah, privileged to be busy and especially busy with good things and things that you value and care about. So yeah, can't argue with that.
Outstanding. We'll talk soon, and thanks again, Aaron.
Yep, you're welcome. Have a good one.